In the year 1137, amidst the golden sands of Tikrit, a child was born who would one day change the fate of nations. His name, Salahuddin Yusuf ibn Ayyub, a name destined to echo through centuries. The world he entered was fractured and burning. Muslim lands were divided, kingdoms at war, and the sacred city of Jerusalem lay in the hands of foreign invaders. The Crusaders ruled with iron and arrogance, and faith had become a distant whisper. But from the cradle, the boy was different. Quiet, thoughtful, and drawn not to luxury, but to learning and prayer. His father served as a noble commander, and through him, young Salahuddin learned discipline and humility. None could have guessed that this boy, born in exile, would one day rise as the lion of Islam, the man who would unite the broken and humble the mighty. The sands of destiny had chosen him, and history had begun to turn. The 12th century was an age of chaos. The Muslim world stood divided. Syria, Egypt, Iraq, each ruled by its own prince, more concerned with power than piety. Meanwhile, the Crusader kingdoms thrived, their fortresses towering across the Holy Land. The banner of the cross flew proudly over Jerusalem, while Muslims bled in endless wars of pride and politics. But in this darkness, Salahuddin saw what others did not, that the true strength of a nation was not in its numbers, but in its unity. He watched as brothers fought brothers, and foreign swords claimed sacred soil. He vowed that this must end. To fight the Crusaders, the Muslims first had to defeat division, and so Salahuddin began his lifelong mission, not to conquer land, but to restore honor and to awaken the sleeping heart of the Ummah. Fate tested Salahuddin early. Sent by his mentor Nur ad-Din Zangi to Egypt, he arrived in a land trembling under corruption and foreign plots. The Fatimid Caliphate was crumbling, and enemies waited like vultures. But where others saw ruin, Salahuddin saw opportunity. Through patience and wisdom, he brought order to chaos. He protected scholars, defended the poor, and revived justice. His character was so pure that even his rivals grew to respect him. When the Fatimid dynasty finally fell, Salahuddin rose, not as a tyrant, but as a servant of faith. He became the vizier of Egypt, yet lived like a soldier. No palaces, no golden robes, only the Quran, a prayer mat, and a vision greater than any crown. Egypt, once a land of weakness, now became the beating heart of a new power, united, disciplined, and ready to reclaim the honor of Islam. The world began to whisper his name, Salah ad-Din, the man who would not be corrupted. When his mentor Nur ad-Din passed away, the Muslim world trembled again. Kings and emirs turned against each other, hoping to carve new thrones from the chaos. But Salahuddin stood above it all, not with greed, but with purpose. He moved swiftly across the lands of Syria, Aleppo, and Mosul, not as a conqueror, but as a unifier. His mission was divine, to restore strength through faith and brotherhood. And wherever he went, the people opened their gates, for they saw not a warlord, but a man of justice. At last, the dream of unity became real. For the first time in generations, the crescent shone strong across the Middle East. And now, Salahuddin turned his gaze toward the horizon, toward Jerusalem, the sacred city of prophets, still bound under Crusader rule. His heart burned with a single thought: the land of peace must return to peace. Among the Crusaders, one name was cursed above all: Reynald of Chatillon. Arrogant, brutal, and godless, He raided caravans of pilgrims traveling to Mecca, slaughtered innocents, and even swore to march upon the holy cities themselves. Salahuddin's patience was vast, but his sense of justice was unshakable. He sent warnings, letters of peace, and offers of treaty, but Reynal responded with mockery and blood. When the last caravan was attacked and its people slain, Salahuddin swore before his generals, "By God, I will not rest until justice stands over tyranny." The Lion of Islam unsheathed his sword. War was no longer a choice. It was destiny. The world would soon witness what happens when faith meets fire. The year was 1187. The drums of war thundered across the Levant. The Crusaders had gathered the might of their kingdoms, knights clad in steel, banners shining with the cross, believing their power eternal. But Salahuddin had something no army could match: faith and unity. He marched from Damascus with tens of thousands of warriors, Arabs, Kurds, Turks, Egyptians, once divided, now one under a single purpose. The air shimmered with heat, the ground cracked beneath weary feet. Yet not a man faltered. Each knew that history was calling. Salahuddin's strategy was genius. He refused to meet the Crusaders on their terms. He cut their supply lines, poisoned their wells, and led them deeper into the desert, into the trap he had woven with patience and precision. And then, under the blazing sun near the twin hills of Hattin, the Crusader army found itself surrounded, thirsty, exhausted, and broken by their own arrogance. The stage was set for a battle that would change the fate of the Holy Land forever. The morning of July 4th, 1187, dawned red, as if the heavens themselves foretold the blood to come. The Crusaders stood upon the hills of Hattin, parched and desperate. Their armor burned under the sun. Behind them, the smoke of burning grass filled the air. Salahuddin's doing, a final trap to choke their senses and blind their sight. As the flames rose, the Muslims advanced, shields glinting, voices thundering with Allahu Akbar. Arrows darkened the sky. The Crusader lines wavered, their horses fell, their courage shattered. One by one, the proud knights of Europe fell before the tide of faith. King Guy of Jerusalem was captured. The infamous Reynald of Chatillon was dragged before Salahuddin. The Lion of Islam looked upon him, the man who had slaughtered women and mocked the Prophet, and with calm fury he said, "You have exceeded your oath. There will be no second betrayal." With a single strike, justice was done. The world would remember that day, not as vengeance, but as the moment when honor triumphed over cruelty. After Hattin, the road to Jerusalem lay open. City after city, fortress after fortress fell, not by slaughter, but by surrender. For the people had heard of Salahuddin's mercy. His name spread like a whisper of hope. A ruler who fought fiercely, yet ruled with compassion. When his army encamped outside Jerusalem, the Crusader garrison trembled. The same city that had once witnessed rivers of Muslim blood during the First Crusade now faced its reckoning. Yet Salahuddin sought not revenge, but redemption. He offered peace, safe passage for all who would leave, and protection for those who would stay. Even his enemies marveled. When the city finally surrendered, Salahuddin entered not as a conqueror, but as a pilgrim. He dismounted, knelt upon the ground, and wept. The call to prayer echoed over Al-Aqsa once more, after 88 years. And for the first time in generations, the holy city knew peace instead of blood. The world watched in awe. Never before had a conqueror shown such restraint. While the Crusaders had slaughtered thousands in the name of faith, Salahuddin showed the world what faith truly meant. He refused to burn churches. He allowed Christian pilgrims to return. He even arranged safe escorts for widows and orphans. The Latin chroniclers, enemies by creed, wrote in disbelief, "The mercy of this Saracen surpassed the mercy of our own." To the Muslims, he became the embodiment of justice and dignity. To his enemies, he became the measure of honor. And to history, he became a legend, a warrior whose sword was sharp, but whose heart was sharper still. The lion had reclaimed Jerusalem, not with rage, but with grace. Years passed, and the great Sultan grew weary. Victories faded, empires shifted, but Salahuddin remained unchanged, humble, devout, and uncorrupted. When he died in 1193, the world mourned. In his treasury, they found barely enough gold to pay for his burial. The conqueror of kingdoms had left nothing for himself, not a coin, not a jewel, only a legacy that outlived empires. At his funeral, thousands wept, Muslims, Christians, and Jews alike. His name had crossed faith and nation, becoming a symbol of what humanity could be. And as the wind carried the last echoes of prayer, one truth remained eternal. A sword can win battles, but only faith and mercy can win hearts. Salahuddin Ayyubi, the Lion of Islam, the Conqueror of Jerusalem, the light of honor that will never fade.